There's a plant in your driveway right now with more calcium than milk, more protein than beef, and more vitamin C than oranges. For 8,500 years, it sustained entire civilizations. People didn't just gather it, they bred it like wheat. They selected seeds generation after generation, stored them in clay jars for winter, and ground them into flour that lasted through famines. Then we made it illegal. We created a $74 billion industry dedicated to poisoning it out of existence. We convinced millions of people that this plant, which offers more nutrition than almost anything in the grocery store, is their enemy. We erased its name so completely that most Americans under 40 have never heard it, even though they've been looking at it their entire lives. This is the story of the most nutritious weed in America, and the system that cannot afford to let you remember what it is. The year is 1987. Deep in the Ozark Plateaus of eastern Kentucky, archaeologists excavate ancient rock shelters, sealed for thousands of years. Inside one shelter, they find storage pits, carefully constructed, deliberately placed. When they carbon date the contents, the results come back at 6500 BC, over 8,000 years old. But what stops everyone isn't the age, it's what's inside. Seeds, thousands of them, carbonized and preserved, stored alongside squash and sunflower in a way that can only mean one thing. This was food storage. This was deliberate agriculture. When they analyze the seeds, they identify them as Chenopodium berlandieri, Native American lamb's quarters, and you can recognize this ancient food right now. Look for diamond-shaped leaves with a dusty white coating underneath, growing from cracks in pavement, disturbed soil, anywhere the earth has been turned. Spring through fall, it's there, waiting. It was fully domesticated by 1700 BC as part of the Eastern Agricultural Complex, a sophisticated system of cultivated crops that supported populations across eastern North America for over 3,000 years, long before maize even arrived from the south. When scientists examined the domesticated seeds under microscopes, they discovered something that revealed just how intentional this cultivation was. The seed coats measured only 20 microns thick. Wild Chenopodium seeds were 60 microns, 3 times thicker. Thin seed coats mean faster germination and quicker growth, which translated to more crops per season. Someone had been selecting these seeds year after year, generation after generation. They were breeding this plant the same way we bred corn from teosinte and wheat from wild grasses. This was agricultural science happening in North America thousands of years before Columbus. The Ohio River Basin, Kentucky rock shelters, Tennessee caves, everywhere archaeologists looked, they found Chenopodium seeds stored with other grains, treated with the same care as any staple crop. And then in 2014, European researchers started finding the same thing. Viking Age sites in Denmark, Roman settlements across Central Europe, Iron Age storage pits in Germany and France, all contained Chenopodium album seeds, the European cousin, stored in clay jars with wheat and barley. Then came the discovery that made headlines: Danish bog bodies. Iron Age people preserved in peat for 2,000 years had Chenopodium seeds in their stomachs. Their last meals. This was not famine food. This was not desperation. This was regular food, eaten by regular people across 8,500 years of human history. The Zuni cooked the young greens, The Iroquois harvested it every summer. In India, they call it bathua, and you can still buy it in markets today. A premium winter vegetable. In China, they call the cousin species huoxian, and they never stop cultivating it. The knowledge was global. The cultivation was deliberate. The nutrition was understood long before laboratories could measure it. So how does a plant this important just disappear from American consciousness? By 1150 AD, maize had arrived in eastern North America, spreading north from Mesoamerica. It was calorie-dense, easier to store, and it fit the model that European colonizers would later bring. The Eastern agricultural complex collapsed within generations. Lamb's quarters, amaranth, little barley, knotweed, crops that sustained civilizations for 3,000 years faded into obscurity. The native domesticated variety, carefully bred for 3 millennia, went extinct, gone forever. European settlers brought their own Chenopodium album across the Atlantic. They knew it as fat hen, pigweed, goosefoot. Peasants ate it during famines, fed it to livestock, used it as medicine. But by then, agriculture meant wheat, corn, cash crops, things you could tax, things you could sell, things you could control. The plant survived anyway, growing in ditches and disturbed soil. It didn't need permission. That was always its strength. Then came 1950, and everything changed. Post-war America. The GI Bill finances millions of new homes. Suburbs explode. And with them comes a new ideology. The perfect lawn. Grass, uniform, and green, with absolutely no weeds. Construction creates disturbed soil everywhere. Perfect conditions for lamb's quarters, which colonizes bare ground faster than almost anything. Suddenly, every suburban yard has it growing, and homeowners panic. Chemical companies saw opportunity. In 1947, the Scott's Company began mass marketing herbicides to American homeowners. The active ingredient was 2,4-D. It was developed during World War II as part of biological warfare research. After the war, chemical companies needed new markets for these weapons, and American lawns became the battlefield. By the 1960s, homeowners associations wrote bylaws prohibiting noxious weeds, listing lamb's quarters by name. You could be fined for allowing food to grow on property you own. But here's what they don't tell you. If you want to protect just one plant, grow it in a large container with quality potting soil. It thrives in pots. The invasive spread they warn you about? Completely contained. Zones 3 through 10, which covers everyone from Minnesota to Florida, you can grow this in a container on your porch, your balcony, your driveway. Agriculture followed the same pattern. Lamb's quarters competes with soybeans and corn, the most heavily subsidized crops in America. The herbicide industry exploded into a $40 billion global market. Weed control added another $34 billion. We are spending $74 billion annually to destroy plants, with lamb's quarters as target number 1. Meanwhile, the leafy greens market grew into a $95 billion industry. Spinach, kale, lettuce, trucked from California's Central Valley, irrigated with increasingly scarce water, packaged in plastic, shipped thousands of miles. And lamb's quarters, offering the same nutrition, grows free in every crack in the pavement. Let me tell you what is actually in this plant, because the results are stunning. 1 cup of lamb's quarters contains 464 milligrams of calcium. Spinach, The vegetable we're told to eat for strong bones contains 30. That's 15 times more. Vitamin C, 66 milligrams per cup, compared to spinach at 8.4. More iron, more protein, more B vitamins than spinach or cabbage. 1 cup gives you 741% of your daily vitamin K requirement. The vitamins sold in supplements for $20 a bottle. Michael Pollan, who wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, called lamb's quarters and purslane 2 of the most nutritious plants in the world, not vegetables, plants, period. The Tohono O'odham cultivated it for thousands of years without laboratories. European peasants knew chickens grew fat on it. People have always known this plant was extraordinary. For your bones, that calcium builds density that prevents fractures as you age. For your heart, that vitamin K regulates blood clotting and keeps arteries clear. For your blood, that iron carries oxygen to every cell. This is what your body has been asking for, and it's been growing outside your door. If you're on blood thinners, talk to your doctor about vitamin K. But for everyone else, this is nutrition your ancestors relied on, and your body still recognizes. But here's what you cannot do with it. You cannot patent it. You cannot genetically modify it to depend on specific fertilizers. You cannot control its seeds. Each plant drops 75,000 seeds that remain viable for 40 years. Cut it into pieces and every fragment roots. It heals depleted soil. It grows without water. It tolerates extremes. It asks for nothing. In a food system built on scarcity and control, a plant like that is more dangerous than any pest, because lamb's quarters threatens everything. The leafy greens industry, the calcium supplement market, the vitamin industries. All of these depend on people believing they need to buy things when a plant in their driveway offers it for free. More than that, it threatens the fundamental logic of modern agriculture. The idea that food must be difficult, that it must require inputs, that it must be controlled by corporations selling seeds every year, fertilizers every season, pesticides to kill everything that grows without permission. Lamb's quarters grows without permission. It heals soil instead of depleting it. It feeds people without asking anything in return. That kind of abundance, free, uncontrollable, available to anyone, cannot exist in a system built on scarcity. So the plant was erased, not with fire or war, but with language. We called it a weed, a pest, a problem. We created an entire vocabulary around its destruction and convinced 3 generations that this plant is their enemy. Most Americans under 40 have seen it their entire lives, but have no name for it. When you erase the name, you erase the knowledge. When you erase the knowledge, you erase the power. But here's what they could not erase: the plant itself. While Americans forgot, the rest of the world kept eating. In India, Bathua is sold in every winter market. Not famine food, but premium food. In China, huoxian is still cultivated. In Mexico, quelites, wild greens including lamb's quarters, never left the diet. Grandmothers still teach children which plants to harvest, how to cook them, when to gather seeds. What happened in America was cultural genocide, but it was incomplete. Immigrant families brought the knowledge with them. Italian grandmothers remembered fat hen. Mexican families knew verdolagas. Indigenous communities never stopped gathering traditional foods. The knowledge survived in fragments. It was passed down in whispers, waiting for the moment when people would need it again. That moment is now. Lettuce requires consistent irrigation. Spinach needs cool temperatures and steady moisture. The crops feeding 8 billion people were bred for stability, for weather patterns that no longer exist. Lamb's quarters was built for chaos. It survives on minimal rainfall. It thrives in heat. It grows in degraded soil where nothing else will. It doesn't need irrigation or controlled environments. For 70 years, we spent billions poisoning the plant that could save us. Now, as systems fail, the answer has been waiting in every crack, every disturbed patch of soil, every place we told it not to grow. So let's talk about what you can actually do this weekend. First, identification. You need to recognize this plant before you can use it. Look for diamond-shaped leaves about 2 to 3 inches long with a dusty white coating on the underside. That coating is epicuticular wax, the plant's natural sunscreen. When you rub a leaf between your fingers, you'll feel that powdery texture. The leaves grow alternately along the stem, not opposite each other. Young leaves are tender, bright green. Older leaves can be tougher, but still edible. The shape gives it one of its names, goosefoot. The leaves look like the webbed foot of a goose. It grows from spring through the first hard frost. You'll find it in disturbed soil, gardens, cracks in pavement, construction sites, anywhere the earth has been turned. Now, growing it. If you're worried about invasiveness, here's your solution. Get a 5-gallon bucket with drainage holes. Fill it with quality potting soil. Plant seeds or transplant a young plant. Water it during establishment, then leave it alone. It will grow in zones 3 through 10. That's Minnesota to Florida. It adapts to your climate. It doesn't need fertilizer. It doesn't need constant attention. It just grows. One container eliminates the invasiveness concern completely. Your neighbors won't complain. Your HOA can't fine you. And you'll have fresh greens from spring through fall. Harvesting is simple. Cut the top 4 to 6 inches of growth. Do this in the morning after the dew dries. The plant keeps producing. The more you harvest, the bushier it becomes. Now, cooking. And this is important because lamb's quarters contains oxalic acid, the same compound in spinach and chard. Too much can affect calcium absorption and isn't great for your kidneys. But you can reduce it dramatically with 3 simple methods. Method 1. Sauté. Heat breaks down oxalic acid. Cook the greens in a pan with garlic and olive oil for 3 to 5 minutes. Most of the oxalic acid breaks down. The greens taste like spinach, slightly earthy with a mineral richness. Method 2. Blanch first. Boil water. Drop the greens in for 2 minutes. Drain, then use them however you want. The water removes most of the oxalic acid. Then you can add them to soups, stir-fries, pasta. Method 3. Ferment them like sauerkraut. Chop the greens, massage with salt, pack into a jar. The bacteria consume the oxalic acid during fermentation. After a week, you have probiotic greens with reduced oxalates. Start with small amounts. Your body will tell you what it can handle. Listen to it. Now, seed saving. This is where you become powerful. Let one plant go to seed in late summer. You'll see flower spikes form, then thousands of tiny black seeds develop. When the seed heads turn brown and dry, shake them into a paper bag. One plant drops 75,000 seeds. Store them in a glass jar with a silica gel packet to absorb moisture. Label it with the date. Those say, seeds remain viable for 40 years. Next spring, you have 75,000 plants if you want them. More realistically, you plant 50, give seeds to 10 neighbors, donate some to a community garden, and still have enough for the next decade. When you save seeds, you control your food. You don't depend on supply chains. You don't need permission. You become the archive. Build a neighborhood seed library. Give packets to friends. Trade with other gardeners. Every person who saves these seeds is restoring knowledge that took 8,000 years to develop and 70 years to erase. Finally, sourcing. If you don't have lamb's quarters growing nearby, here's what you do. Option 1. Harvest wild seeds this fall when you see mature plants. Collect seeds, store them, plant them next spring. Option 2. Buy foraged greens at a farmer's market. Some vendors sell them. Eat most of the greens, but let a few flower and save those seeds. It's legal to harvest and grow in all 50 states. Despite decades of propaganda, they never made the plant itself illegal. They just convinced you it was worthless. That's your weekend. Recognize the plant. Start one container. Harvest the greens. Save the seeds. That's how you take 8,000 years of agricultural knowledge and make it yours. There is knowledge buried in every seed, waiting for hands willing to harvest it. Your great-great-grandmother knew which plants to gather. She knew when to harvest, how to cook them, how to save seeds for next year. That knowledge fed families through depressions, droughts, wars. 3 generations later, we buy greens trucked from California, packaged in plastic, while the same nutrition grows for free outside our doors. But the knowledge isn't gone. It's sleeping. And seeds sleep for 40 years waiting. Your children's children will need this. Not as trivia, but as survival. Not as history, but as practice. One container, one harvest. One generation of seeds saved and shared. That's how you restore what was taken. That's how you become powerful again. Not by asking permission, but by remembering what your ancestors knew. The plant never left. It's been waiting. If this kind of knowledge shouldn't be buried again, you know what to do. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to remember, and then go outside and find it. The archive stays open as long as people keep reading.